Okay, we are live. Good morning, Miss G. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. This is a special show that you wanted to do. All right, what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about CPS investigation, the initial investigation,
Okay.
because the reason I asked you for that show today is because I'm getting a lot of callers who are dealing with the investigation phase,
hmm
and they are told by other attorneys in LA County that it's okay for them to sign the safety plan. And it's okay for them to communicate with the social workers, and that if they cooperate with the social workers, everything's going to be okay. If it's not okay, to give those attorneys a call back. One was in LA County, the other one is in Beverly Hills.
Well, you know, it's not what I do.
Right.
And with, 39 years of experience, 36 of them doing CPS cases,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a good strategy. It's a simple strategy,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not a good strategy, in my
Right.
humble opinion. If
Can you explain
CPS,
why, though?
I'm sorry?
Can you explain to everyone
Sure.
why it's not a good strategy?
Okay, first of all, when CPS contacts you, that means that someone, somewhere, has made allegations against you,
Right.
allegations for child abuse or, suspected child abuse. When social workers contact you, if you agree to do services at the very beginning, you could be putting yourself in a negative position. You shouldn't agree to do anything until you find out what the allegations are against you, preferably who made them, so that you can, rebut those. I give you an example right now. I'm doing a case where the the parent called me maybe 2 months ago, and the allegation that was made was the parent was letting her mother and her husband beat the children. And the social worker wanted the parent to sign a
Mm-hmm.
statement basically admitting that that was true,
Mm-hmm.
and sign something that she would do all types of services. For whatever reason, this lady called us, and I think she might have spoken to you,
Mm-hmm.
and she decided to hire me for the pre-investigative stage.
Mm-hmm.
And the worker was very, very aggressive,
Yep.
and she wanted the parent to do all of these services.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to talk to the father, to talk to the grandmother about these allegations. By the way, if the father or the grandmother talked to the social worker and said anything that might lead the social worker to believe that an act of abuse was committed, the social worker is supposed to report that to the police. And the police come out and want to interview and maybe start a criminal case against you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a good thing just to do whatever the social worker says. Unless you're that type of person that, you don't mind admitting things that aren't true. Most people, especially when it comes to your child, they do mind. And if you ever give the social worker any inclination that, the allegations that have been made against you are true, uh, that could lead to big trouble. They could come out and detain your children from your custody. They could report you to the police, and that could lead to a criminal, allegation being made against you. So it's very careful. You should be very careful. And what I advise people is don't talk to social workers. You have no obligation before a case is filed to speak to a social worker.
Without an attorney, right?
No, you don't even have to talk to them at all. What I suggest is that they speak to the social worker with the attorney present on the phone, on the Zoom, or in person at one of these meetings.
Right. There's
In,
something out. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish what you have to say.
In that case that I was just mentioning,
Hmm.
this is almost 3 months later, and the social worker goes away for a couple of weeks and then comes back, goes away and then comes back. Finally, because I told the social worker, I said, hey, if you want to talk to the kids with the parents' permission, you have to get a warrant. So almost after 3 months, they get a warrant to talk to the children. Now, they can never get a warrant to talk to you, but most parents can't help themselves and they, blah, 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 blah with the social worker
Exactly. Yep.
or the police officer. It rarely turns out well. So if they're going to do something, make them do it legally.
Right.
Don't just give in to what they're asking for. Now, in this particular case, I think right now that the social worker is so pissed off that she went out and got a warrant to talk to the kids. And because they won't give me the application for the warrant,
Hmm.
I think she said some things that weren't true. So, do social workers ever twist the
Lie.
facts?
Hmm.
Twist the facts? Yeah.
They
In
sure do.
the over 35 years I've been doing this, I've seen it a lot.
If I may, I'm gonna share this with everyone and you. A lot of the cases I've been getting lately, their allegations are coming from a rebellious teenager. Okay. Like a teenager angry at her parents or his parents for that can make one emotional accusation, and the CPS will, you know, without any evidence, remove the child or the children, or a bitter ex-wife or a bitter ex-husband. All of that causes social workers to come in the lives of families and destroy them. Meanwhile, my question is, on other people's questions, same. Meanwhile, the judges who are supposed to protect the Constitution rights are failing at their job. Instead of ensuring due process, they kind of rubber stamp CPS recommendation without truly hearing cases. And basically, the social workers who are not really government entities, they're part of the government, they're part of the state, are giving more hearsay in court. We don't understand that part. And a lot of parents think the judges are going to do the right thing. But if they have the wrong attorney, that attorney is not going to fight for their rights or even handle the case accordingly as they should.
You know, it comes down to how you or your attorney want to handle the case.
Right, right.
Do you just want to agree to something, or do you want to try to protect your rights? And there's people all over the board, and everywhere in between. Most people tell me, I had a guy here yesterday at my office, and it's in the investigative stage. Well, it's actually past the investigative stage. And without any real evidence, the social workers detained his children. Now, it turns out that apparently the main complainer is a 17-year-old teenager who the father still is trying to raise with his rules of the house.
Mhm.
Well, the easiest way to get dad out of the house who has rules is to say, make up an allegation. And the allegation that this person made up was that there was domestic violence between the mother and father.
Mhm.
And even though apparently the mother was interviewed and denied it, they
Mhm.
took the word of the 17-year-old. So father had taken her iPhone and her iPad away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that didn't go over well with the 17-year-old. So she made allegations. And the interesting thing is, the guy showed me texts between him and his daughter right before the children were taken away. And, it's the girl saying, you better turn over my iPhone, give me back my phone, or you're going to be sorry. That's like a straight out threat.
Yeah.
Apparently, the father didn't give her back the iPhone or the iPad. Allegations were made on a hotline by the 17-year-old. And of course, the social worker did some type of investigation by just talking to the 17-year-old and then detaining not only the 17-year-old, but the 13-year-old and the 8-year-old. So, a lot of people, including teenagers, where you try to enforce rules, are using CPS as a weapon. And social workers, when they don't do a complete investigation, they act fast. They act fast to detain the children.
Right. There's also another point I wanted you to talk about. Um, the relatives. I had 3 parents yesterday, Saturday. Okay. 3 parents called me and they wanted me to speak to their relatives, like, the sister or the cousins or the mom, grandparents. When I spoke to the relatives, the grandparents told me, one of the grandparents said, well, I told my daughter to follow whatever the social workers tells her to do, and everything will be okay. Because in their mind, they think that the system actually works. The system doesn't work, and they think that social workers are doing the right thing for reunifications. There is no such thing. Um, Once the relative starts opening their mouth to CPS, it makes matters worse. And actually, Attorney Michael from New York.
Georgette, I don't know if can hear me, but on my end, you have frozen. Looks like that we have lost Georgette. I bet she'll go ahead and log back in. While she's doing that, I want to tell you a quick story. I have a new case outside of Los Angeles County, and apparently at the jurisdiction and disposition hearing, my client and her husband were told or advised to go ahead, plead no contest, basically admit the allegations of child abuse, and that you'll have the children back in 6 months. Well, 6 months goes by, they get the report, they read the report, and the social worker on the case is not recommending to return the children. And the first thing the mother asked me is, well, they told me I get the kids back in 6 months if I did everything I was supposed to do, the parenting, the domestic violence counseling, and such. And she did. Has her certificates, her progress letters, everything. But the worker did not recommend to give the children back. Now, in this particular case, the worker made allegations that the mother came to a visit intoxicated on 2 different occasions. Mother says that's not true. She doesn't drink, she doesn't use drugs. Interestingly enough, these 2 occasions happened right after the mother made an official complaint against the social worker, and apparently against the monitor of her visits. It even gets worse. The social worker way back when convinced the mother and father to move out of their very nice 3 or 4 bedroom home and allow a relative of the father's to move into the home with the children so the children could stay at home. Now, one of the things, the backdrops of this is that relative and the social worker are friends, apparently very good friends. So if the social worker recommends that the child or the children be returned to the parents, that relative has no place to live. And that relative will not be receiving foster care money, which my client estimates is about $5,000-6,000 a month. So that promise of, hey, you'll get your kids back in 6 months if you do anything, it's not happening. They hire me to go to the 6-month hearing. I tell the judge I want to have a trial. Now, I don't know if it was my imagination or not, but there may have been some disdain by the judge for me setting the case for trial. So we've set the case for trial, and all of this information is going to come out. Of course, none of this information that I just told you was in the report. But there was one other thing. So the social worker, for her records apparently, to get the relative approved and to get her approved for funding, made the parents and the relative sign a lease agreement. And, for this 3 or 4 bedroom home, the relative only had to pay $600 a month. Well, in the months that she's lived there with the children, she's paid no dollars a month. And she asked me, she said, hey, Mr. Davis, can I get my house back? And I said, you absolutely can. So when that promise is made to you, just do what the social worker says, you'll get the kids back. It's not always true. Is it ever true? In my estimate, it might be true 15 to 20% of the time. But inevitably, you do what the social worker says, and then the social worker comes back and says, hey, you know what? You did that individual counseling, but you didn't get anything out of it. You just sat in the class and you just showed up and you didn't learn anything. Therefore, I'm not recommending you get the children back. And of course, the judge reads that and the judge believes it. The only way that you can change the judge's mind is to have a trial and to bring in the individual counselor to say, oh no, mother showed up at every class, she internalized, she participated. I believe she did learn something from the counseling. But of course, you will never see that in any social worker report until the social worker is put on the witness stand and until the individual therapist is put on the witness stand. You can't get this information to the judge's ears without having a trial. That's the bottom line. You need to have a trial. And in CPS courts, having a trial sometimes is looked upon with disdain. You want to fight for the kids to come back home to your client? Oh, you shouldn't do that. Just continue another 6 months and they'll get the kids back. And then at another 6-month date, the recommendation is, no, don't return the children. Now where are you? These statutory hearings that you have in CPS cases are extremely important. And it's up to you and your lawyer to take advantage of the situation. I'm looking at a message right now from Miss G, who was on the live stream with us, and it looks like she's having technical difficulties. There was another thing that I went. Oh, there's Miss G.
Oh my gosh. I'm
I
so
was just
sorry.
telling a story about a case that I was involved in, but I finished and I was about to sign off because I thought, oh, we're not going to get Miss G back.
No, but let me finish what I was gonna say. Okay. I'm
Okay.
sorry. It was just some glitch in the system. I don't know what's going on. But what I was talking about earlier about the relatives, that's very important for you guys to understand. Relatives, please do not speak to the social workers thinking they're going to do the right thing. Um, it doesn't matter what your son or daughter did in the past, right? Like they will say things like, I'll give you an example as of yesterday. The grandmother said she just shared with a social worker that her daughter did marijuana when she was 15. And she was angry with her, but she stopped doing drugs and she never went back to it. Because what the social worker asks about questions to get you to talk more. And Attorney Davis, I want you to elaborate on that part because social workers, people think they're nice. They're at first they're nice, but you have to understand there's a good cop, bad cop role that they play, and you always get the one that wants you to talk more. And they think they always start with this: "We're just here to help. Um, there is no incentives. We don't get incentives from removing children." The oh yeah, they say that every day now. They say that. Um, they don't get incentives for removing children. The house looks great. Everything looks wonderful. We're gonna close the case. That's what they say. Then they come back at midnight or at 3 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of the night, and they remove your children with the sheriff. With okay, I want you to kind of explain to them.
Oh, Miss G froze up again. Well,
Oh,
there you are. You
I
want
don't know.
me to explain? You want me to explain it?
Please,
Okay.
before the internet goes off again.
Okay. So here's the deal. If you are a relative that wants the child placed with you, you are going to have to talk to the social worker. But it is very important how you talk to the social worker.
Hmm.
Do not think that you volunteering information against one or both of the parents is going to ingratiate you with the social worker so that you get the kids. The message you give the social worker is, look, I'll take the kids, I'll protect the kids from those bad parents, and please place the kids with me. That's it. If you are a relative that's not in the running for getting the children and you want to help the parents, my suggestion is that you don't talk or communicate with the social worker unless you talk to the attorney first, unless you talk to me first. Um, there are many reasons for that. Now, every few years, 5, 6 years or so, there's legislation in our state that social workers get badges and guns.
Hmm.
Okay. It's always defeated, thank God.
Yeah.
But social workers are trained every month, 8 to 10 hours a month, and they're trained on something that the Army calls psyops.
Yeah.
They don't call it that. There's a more politically correct term for that in the social worker field. But go ahead and Google psyops, PSYOPPS. It is psychological warfare. It is training on how to get people to do or give you information
Mhm.
that they would normally give. Now, to some extent, we all know that, right? If you want something from someone, you want to be nice, you want to form the relationship, etc., etc. Well, that's a form of psychological warfare, all right? But it gets much deeper than that. And I can tell you many, many cases where parents and relatives have been turned against each other with the psychological warfare and the promise of money.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you can get children placed with you as a relative,
Yep.
And you might be getting 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, or more per month, right?
Yep.
What if you're a relative that where you're getting money and you're taking care of the kids? And by the way, you never liked the father anyway, so you don't want to see him get the kids back. The relative that you're related to is the mother.
Mhm.
So there's all this type of psychological warfare and financial rewards that are used to help the social worker with the foster parent or the relative foster parent get money.
Right.
I recently was on a case where it was reported by the foster parent who's not related that bad things were happening between mother and foster parents' visits, mother and minor's visits.
Hmm.
I talked to my client. I said, "Did you see the report? I mean, are you doing any of this stuff?" She says, "Mr. Davis, I never did or said any of that stuff. The lady's in love with my child, my 2-year-old, and wants to keep her permanently." Now, the foster parent thinks, well, who's the judge going to believe? The mother or the foster parent? And so it's a little like hurdle they throw in there to keep the child away from you. One of the things I've always suspected, and I found out maybe a year or two ago in a case up north, was the social worker wasn't damaging or convincing this young child to say things.
Right.
It was the foster parent. And I never was able to prove this, but I firmly believe that the foster parent, who was a professional foster parent, was doing what the social worker wanted her to do.
Hmm.
And that was to convince the child to say certain things to the judge in court. Very difficult thing to prove. Um, Many years ago, I did a case up in, I can't think of the county. It's right outside of Yolo County. It's right outside Sacramento. And at one of the hearings, the social worker said ABC. My client says that's not true. All right. They get the child to report ABC. Okay. I stayed with the case and I became friends with the parents after the case was closed. The kids were placed with, I think it was the paternal grandparents or maybe maternal grandparents in another state in the South. I think it was Mississippi or Georgia. And years go by, the kids were placed there with the grandparents through guardianship. And the family just wanted to get out of California, get to Mississippi, where they claimed, people are a little bit more conservative about these CPS cases, meaning more parent friendly. And years go by, and one day I call my client to wish him like Merry Christmas or something like that. And the kid who allegedly made the statement is now like almost 8 years older, 9 years older. And she says, "Hello, Mr. Davis, blah, 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 small talk." And then she says, I've always wanted to tell you, what I said in court, years ago? And, I kind of went, yeah. She says, it wasn't true. The social worker told me that if I say that to the judge, I'll go back to my parents faster. It was all a lie. And it was a lie allegedly manufactured by the social worker. Have I heard that before in other cases in other counties? Yeah. And a lot of times, people get upset when I want to call a minor as a witness. Because one of the things I like to ask the minor, I said, hey, did anybody tell you to tell me this? Or to tell the judge that? Did anybody promise you anything to tell the judge that? Well, yeah. Of course, that's not in the report. Judge doesn't know that. I was relating a story to someone recently about a very old case I had where a 6-year-old made the complaint that her father was sexually abusing her. When we finally had the trial, and this was a lesson that I learned decades ago. I'm going to be honest with you right now. 25 years ago, when I was representing this gentleman, this father, who was a Mexican, allegedly a Mexican gang member, all right, in jail for sexually abusing his daughter, I tried to convince him to take a plea. He said he couldn't. And the reason why he couldn't, number one, it wasn't true. And number two, if I do, I'm a dead man. We've heard the rumors. Go to jail, you're a pedophile. It's, might be all over for you. So I was forced to do the trial. And I learned something 25 years ago. I learned if you don't take things to trial, you can't get to the truth, ever. In most cases. During the trial, I decided to just go all out. So we're in the judge's chambers taking the testimony of the child. Okay? The county council goes first, the minors council, and the questions they ask, the kid was solid on the responses. Yes, my father did this. Yes, my father touched me there. Blah, 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 blah. Now here I am. What am I going to ask this child? My client swears to me he never did it. And he has a suspicion of who convinced the girl to do it, to tell the story. It was kind of way out there kind of suspicion. So I say to the girl, I try to warm up to the girl. And then I say to the girl, and I point to the judge. And I say, it's true, he touched you too, isn't it? Objection, objection, objection. Nobody wants the kid to answer that question. Judge says, hey, basically, that's a good question. Isn't it true that I'm pointing at the judge, the girl turns and looks at the judge and says, yeah, he did. And then I said something like, well, he did it a lot of times, didn't he? Yes. And I said, and since we're here, we should really be telling the truth. It's true, isn't it, that I touched you too? Yes, you did. Judge stopped the case, basically throughout the case. And I wanted to ask this question. I think I did ask this question, but the judge stopped the case, but the girl did answer it. The question's like, who told you to tell us that men have been touching you? My grandma. Now, here's something about this case that you don't know. The grandma was a high-ranking officer in a local police department. The grandma hated my client, Mexican gang member, who allegedly got her daughter, the mother of the kid, on drugs. And she was out on the street, the mother. She didn't want my client to have custody of the kid in his allegedly, in his gang lifestyle. So what happened? Allegations of sex abuse. So do you think children ever lie? Do your children ever lie?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mine do. People lie. It's just part of life.
But kids usually is,
And they lie in court too. They lie
but
to social workers.
they're told to lie. They cannot talk to lie or rehearse or
That's an
lie.
interesting thing. I believe that. I
Yeah.
believe that someone, influences. I can remember when my kids were 8 or 9. And I remember thinking that they can be so subtly influenced to say certain things.
Yeah.
Around this time, my wife and I, around that time, were talking about getting divorced. And I asked my children straight out, if mommy and daddy don't live together anymore, who would you want to live with? Both of them, without hesitation, said mommy. And I asked my daughter, I said, why? And she said something crazy. I won't say it, but it was something that would come from my wife at that time. God bless her, she's deceased.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned at that moment that kids can be influenced so easy.
Yep.
They can, like this kid down in Mississippi. Oh, I said that 8, 9 years ago because I was told if I said that, I could go home to my parents.
That's true. That's very true.
It
Very
was a
true.
lie. It was a lie, but they don't realize the type of lie it was until years later.
Mm-hmm.
They don't realize what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, have I ever heard that before as a trick by social workers? Yeah, I have. I've heard it a lot, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
The social worker said, if I say ABC,
Mm-hmm.
I can go home. And most of these kids, that's all they want. They want to go home. So they'll
Yes,
say anything.
but it's
Oh, the
true.
social worker, oh, the
It's
social worker said I can go home if I say this lie.
mm-hmm.
And I'm
Or
saying,
now, and now they say that if you don't say daddy did it, you're not gonna see mommy or daddy again. Or if you don't say mommy did it, same thing. And by the way, Attorney Davis, when people have ring cameras at home, okay, and the social worker before they get there, they say to the social worker tells them, make sure that all cameras are off. That's what people are telling me now. One of the parents did not turn off the camera in the hallway and the kitchen area. So in the kitchen area, there's a door. She closed the door, the worker, and she was talking to the teenager in the kitchen. And she thought the cameras were off. And it recorded her telling the teenager that if you don't say your mom or dad did it, you're not going to get the monthly money that you would get if you're with the state. You're not going to get the tablet or an iPhone, the new iPhone 17. Um, she was saying all kinds of stuff to the teenager. The parents on their phone looking at the video as she's already talking to the worker. They're talking to each other, the teen and the worker. And she said, "You mean to tell me I will get money every month?" She said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, you'll get money." So the mother and the dad emailed me because it was a long video. They emailed me the video. And because they're in California, they feel like they're going to get in trouble if they address it in court.
well, here's the interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a law that says you cannot record someone
Mm-hmm.
without their permission.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do, it can't be used anywhere in any court or administrative proceeding. However, and this is the big however, there's
Mm-hmm.
another law right underneath it that says if you do record someone, it's not a crime if it's the commission of a felony. For example, you're at the 7-Eleven,
Mm-hmm.
robbers come in, you turn on your video.
Mm-hmm.
Now you don't have the robber's permission,
Mm-hmm.
but it is admissible because it was in the commission of a felony. So the question becomes, was that felony bribery? I don't know. I'd have to see the whole video. Now, if you did make a tape that didn't fall in one of those exceptions, and there's more than one exception, as I recall, you could be criminally prosecuted and fined like $5,000 or $25,000.
Yep.
You could go to jail. So when people are hesitant about to come forward with their videotaped evidence, they should probably talk to their lawyer and say, "Hey, does this fall under one of the exceptions?" I've probably told you this. I don't know if you remember, but years ago, 25 years ago, I had a case where my client, before everyone had a phone, bought a tape recorder, a little slim tape recorder, and put it in her pocket, right? And she taped every conversation she had with the worker. And she'd usually meet him at a fast food place. And every time we go to court, she'd tell me, well, the worker said he's recommending I get the kid back. And I go to court, look at the report, and I tell the judge, hey, this guy's blah, blah, blah. I never said it was on tape because I didn't know if it was illegal or not.
Mm-hmm.
The judge says, okay, we'll come back. They'll meet again. They meet again. He says the same thing. I'm sorry, something like my supervisor doesn't want to do it, so I can't recommend the kids come home. We come back. Judge says, well, the report says the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's looking at me like either I'm crazy or my client's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He continues again because I'm insistent, I'm believing my client, which sometimes is dangerous, but I'm believing this lady. We come back a third time. And by this time, I'm kind of upset about the whole situation because the lady plays the tape for me.
Mm-hmm.
Without hesitation, worker says, I'm recommending the kids come home. You deserve to have your kids. We come to court, report says something totally different. So I tell the judge, my client has taped this recording. And everyone was like, oh, taped. So he stops the case. He tells me and the county counsel, the social worker's attorney, go outside, go in the private conference room and talk about what this is, what's going on. We go out and I play the tape for her. She says, this might be illegal. Well, me and my client are going to be in trouble. So she says, I got to call my client. The social worker wasn't there. She calls the social worker. She comes back to me and she says, we're recommending the kids go home. I said, what happened? Well, she said this, and I don't remember the exact words, but apparently she yelled at the guy for 5 minutes for telling the mother one thing 3 different times, and then writing something else in the report. And he was blaming it on on his supervisor, who, by the way, if we weren't going to get the kids back, I was going to subpoena into court. So
Good point.
Instead of going through all of that, apparently the worker said, yeah, I think she's going to be safe. Kids are going to be okay. Kids went home. 6 months later, case closes. Everything's fine. Sometimes social workers say things because they're told to say things, and it's their job. So the question becomes, would you lie or say something to save your job? I don't know. You would hope that if you were a public official that you wouldn't, but we can all, take the high ground and say that, oh, no, I won't do that ever. But these social workers sometimes are placed in, untenable situations. They got me coming after them. They got their supervisor coming after them. What do? Right? I'm not here to make any judgments on anyone, but does that happen in life ever? Yeah, I'm sure it's happened to you in your life, and it wasn't even a CPS case. Does that happen in other people's lives? All the time. All the time people are put in ethical and moral situations where they have to make a decision on what to do. So we're not going to judge that. We're going to hope that we're going to get to the bottom of it. If anybody has that issue, that's our client. But the last thing I'm going to do is tell you, just do whatever the social worker says. Because you don't know why the social worker is making that recommendation to you.
It's just common sense.
You think you know, but you really don't. And after doing all the cases I've done in 35 years, you'd be surprised at some of the reasons why people and social workers say things. Sometimes it has nothing to do with the case. I had a case one time where my client swore up and down that the social worker was being bribed by the father. At that time, this is when, marijuana in California became
Was legal.
kind of legal, for medical purposes. And apparently, or allegedly, the father was a big grower of marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
And because at that time, you couldn't put that marijuana money in the bank, although you could sell it, you couldn't put it in the bank because banks were federally regulated. So you had all of these marijuana growers with just cash everywhere. And my client swore up and down that the father bribed the social worker with cash. Now, was it true? I don't know. But have you ever heard of a government official being bribed?
Mm-hmm.
Just turn on the news.
Hmm.
Today,
Hmm.
tomorrow, next week. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it happens. No, I get it clear. I'm not saying every social worker does that. All right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying, does it ever happen? I think so.
Mm-hmm.
And, you think that they're going to do what's right 100% of the time because it's fair, just,
Hmm.
and Christian. Not true. They have their own reasons for saying things and doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's reasons you would never know. You'll never find out.
Incentives. The reasons is incentives. For the love of God, the case has to be open a certain amount of time for them to get the funding from the federal government. It's Title 4E funding. I mean, you guys need to do your research on this.
I can't deny that there is some credibility with what you say. I can't deny it.
Nancy Schaefer said it. She was a senator for Georgia. She was actually murdered for it.
Well, she did say it, and she did end up dead. Is there a connection? I hate to think so. I looked up what I think I Googled or asked Claude AI what LA County's budget is for CPS cases. Its annual budget from the federal government. How much do you think they get?
I would say about $30 billion.
No, they get 2.8 billion. But if you started counting right now, you couldn't count to 1 billion by the time you died. That's how much a billion is. I don't know if you know this, but during the second or third week of January, when President Trump got in office and said he was going to cut everything, one of the things he said he was going to cut was CPS.
Bam, bam, bam. You got that right, baby.
And he said, wait. He said, Family matters should be handled by the family. Well, the backlash from Republicans and Democrats was so large that he tabled it. Him and Elon Musk tabled it.
What?
Right?
Where did you get that information? He's not. No. Republicans, no.
He is not threatening to cut CPS. He closed down the Department of Education. He's closed down other things.
He's investigating CPS. I'm telling you right now. I don't know what news channel you're listening to.
I believe he is, and there's rumors that he's going to change some laws by executive order.
Yep.
Now, I don't know if it's true or not. Do I think, CPS laws need to be revamped? Yes, I do. So I didn't see that.
Trump is investigating the social worker.
Here's the other thing. What's happening more frequently around the country is that social workers are being criminally prosecuted for lying under oath. I just saw an article about this a couple of days ago somewhere. I think it was Texas.
In Texas.
And so do people ever lie? Yes. Social workers are people. So there you go.
But social workers are also government officials working through the state. Therefore, they cannot tell a parent to turn off their camera, home security camera, if they want to come to their home.
That's
Every parent has a right, everyone in America who is an American citizen has a right to say no, because that's home security cameras, right?
one time I told a client to inform the social worker that you are being videotaped.
Mm-hmm.
And the social worker insisted that it be turned off.
Mm-hmm.
So it came down to this. I told the social worker's attorney, if you don't allow a tape recording or videotape of this interview, he's not going to interview. So we go to court. They tell the judge, oh, Davis refused to let his client be interviewed. I said, no, that's not
That's a
accurate.
lie. They say that all the time.
I said, it won't take place unless my client can tape record it or videotape it.
Mm-hmm.
It raises a certain constitutional issue that
Mm-hmm.
nobody has dealt with yet. Because nobody ever thought we'd have these things right here, right? Where everybody can do a videotape anytime, anywhere. So if you tell the social worker, well, if you don't let me tape it, we're not going to do the interview. Where does that leave the case? Where does that leave the law? It's not that I won't interview with you. I won't interview with you unless you let me record it, because you have a habit of twisting or exaggerating or lying, just outright lying. Police officers now have to wear body cams, right? Because the technology is so cheap now.
Mm-hmm.
Why shouldn't social workers wear body cams? Just
I
a thought. Just a thought.
and I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. And I just want everyone to know this, okay? There's a reason why they're attacking President Trump. I'm going to say it. I'm a Trump supporter and I'm not ashamed to say it. I don't care what you guys think. I used to be a Democrat for 24 years. Never again will I ever vote Democrat. But, anyways, the reason that I want President Trump in office because he is cracking down on all these criminals. There's several judges that were removed from bench because they committed crimes. There are so many out there who are being exposed and arrested for their crimes.
Hold on a
See,
second. Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
let me finish. I know you're not. Let me finish. I
This
want you guys
isn't
to
this
understand.
isn't a MAGA show.
I'm
Okay.
not saying it is, but I'm going to say this. He will crack down on CBS, and I guarantee you, this show is going to be live forever. And I'm telling you right now, he's going to crack down on CBS. And I
We'll
want
see.
you to know that. Yeah,
We
well,
will we will
we
see.
get that. But there's Michael. Michael is asking a question. Michael, we couldn't answer your question right away because we were still having a conversation about this matter. But he asked, can I still sue CPS 3 years after getting him back, which is his child back? What's your answer?
Well, if Michael is in California, I would say it depends. It depends on why he waited 3 years and not did it within 2 years.
Mm-hmm,
There's a concept called equitable tolling that
mm-hmm,
might let him extend it to 3 years. So you
mm-hmm.
have to go through this big legal analysis to find out whether equitable tolling will apply. But Michael, if you can't sue, guess who can sue? The child. The child has until the child is 20 to bring a lawsuit. So you can bring a lawsuit on behalf of the child. Generally, what we do is we bring a lawsuit on behalf of the parents. And then
Mm-hmm.
once that's resolved and we find out all the strengths and weaknesses of the case, we then bring a case on behalf of the minor. So you can get, if you use that strategy, you can get two bites at the apple.
Right. Speaking of lawsuits, I would like you to explain to everyone because I've heard from several parents that they have a great lawsuit and blah blah blah. When I start talking to the parents about the actual, the purpose of them wanting to sue CPS, they don't really have. They think they have a good reason, but they don't have the proper evidence, right? Because not everything is considered evidence. Um, I learned that so much from you. So it depends on what they have. So, anyways, I look at it and say it's not good case, but you can talk to Attorney Davis and he can make that determination. Now, they want you to review the entire file, right? They say, why can't Davis take the case? Well, if Davis can't review your files to determine whether it's a good case or not, he's not going to touch it. Why? Let me explain why, and I want Attorney Davis to, um, you know, hear what I have to say. The reason for that is because Attorney Davis can get fined for taking on a bad lawsuit.
For
Okay,
filing that lawsuit.
sorry, filing a bad lawsuit, and also the client will also get in trouble. Am I right, Attorney Davis? So
Yes.
basically, both of you guys. So they think, oh yeah, no, Davis have to take it, and I'm gonna look for another attorney. Good luck finding an attorney. No attorney in the freaking United States will take on a civil lawsuit based on what you say and not based on what are factual, right?
Right.
So the
A lot of people
issue
look at.
is, no, wait, let me finish. Because that person said to me, Davis is not qualified to handle civil lawsuits. No, sweetheart, it's not Davis, right? It's you who is ignorant to facts. Go ahead, Attorney Davis.
You know, civil rights cases against CPS workers or agents. It's kind of a very complicated area. And what makes it complicated is that most of the time, social workers enjoy something called qualified immunity. Yeah, we did something wrong, but can't sue us because we have immunity. So that alone causes a lot of lawsuits to disappear. A lot of people are very in tune to lawyers on TV who do car accident cases. And there's no issue of immunity usually in those types of cases. So they look at it like it's a car accident case. Why can't you file this and get me $1 million in the next 6 months? Car accident cases are night and day different from CPS civil rights cases. And it's hard for people to accept that sometimes, because they've already thought and convinced themselves that they have, the multi-million-dollar case. And they forgot to even, or didn't even know to consider the qualified immunity issue. There is a guy right now in Southern California who has a great case against a social worker, a county council, and the county. And he never hired me. But what he does is he contacts me maybe once a week, sometimes twice a week, and he asks me questions, right? And yeah, I do charge him for the consulting and but if he tried to do this lawsuit without anybody telling him what to do, he would be bounced out of court already. And so every once in a while he'll text me and says, I'm sure glad I talked to you about this issue because I had no idea. There's so many pitfalls that you just don't know, not because you're not educated or you're stupid. It's just that you don't know anything about this area of life. I say this all the time. When somebody said, hey, Davis, you got to get a new transmission, I would never try to change my own transmission. Could I? It'd probably take me 2 or 3 years. Maybe I could get it. I don't have the tools. I don't have the education or experience. I don't have the supplies. And a transmission in a modern day car. It's a few. Then maybe talking about 1,000 pieces. It'd be all over my garage floor. And that's what I think of sometimes when people say, "Hey, I want to do my own case." Okay, you have that right, but it's not a really good idea.
Mm-mm.
And so then I tell people, hey, if the doctor told you you needed open heart surgery, would you go research that on Google and try to do it yourself? Of course not, Mr. Davis. Why are you trying to do that civil rights case or that CPS case by yourself? You know
It's
what most
true.
of them tell me? You know what most of them tell me? Well, because I won't die as a result. If I try to do the open heart surgery, I'm going to die on the table. If I do my legal case, the worst thing that can happen to me is I will lose. And that's really not the worst thing. The worst thing is that you will lose and then you'll be sanctioned thousands of dollars for
Yes,
bringing a frivolous lawsuit. And then you're going to be surprised. Oh, I never heard of that, Mr. Davis. I know. I know you never heard of it.
that's exactly why it's very important that we even have a show just on federal lawsuits. The reason, again, for that one
That
point
would
you
have
just
to be that would have to be like 50 shows or 100 shows. It's
hmm
way complex. Way
yeah,
complex.
and
I,
they get
I
mad.
have
They get mad
I
when we tell them. Jesus
I have a
Christ,
resource that I
Lord.
use. It's digital, but if you were to see it in person at a law library, I think it's about 20 volumes that are about this thick.
Isn't it in your office? I think you have it in your office,
N-
right?
No, that's something else.
I've
What
seen a folder this
what
thick in your
I know,
office,
I know,
an
I have a lot of
actual
different
book.
resources, but the
Hmm.
resource I'm talking about right now, I have it online. I have the
Oh,
digital version.
oh, I
But
didn't know
look,
that.
I've been a lawyer almost 40 years. I use
Hmm.
these legal research resources every day.
Yep.
My guy that's doing his own civil rights lawsuit, who I just counseled, he doesn't know anything about that. He's never even been to a law library. And he firmly believes that justice will win out and that he will win.
There's a point I need to make.
I don't even try to convince him otherwise anymore because it's just a waste of time.
There's something else I need to mention. That woman that was angry that she didn't want you to review her files, and I explained to her in writing. By the way, it's all in the email. The reason why you need to review her files for for a federal case. She said to me that she spoke to a specific attorney in LA County, Wilshire District, and he told her to call you for the civil case. And he told her, hold on, let me finish. He told her you would be a fool not to take it. And then I said to her, I said, I need to talk to you. I need to know who that attorney is because apparently that attorney is an idiot. And please go tell him that Georgette said you're an idiot. And I said, I really want you to tell him Georgette said you're an idiot. And she said, well, Miss G, I'm not going to go tell him that. Anyway, she told me the name of the attorney after like 3 different calls, right? She finally said it. And I called that attorney's office and I told him, or the secretary that answered the phone, I said, you're an idiot. Tell your boss he's an idiot because he doesn't know anything about federal lawsuits. He doesn't know that we cannot just take on a case. If he's not a civil attorney, he should never give advice about civil cases. Am I right or wrong? I mean, to me, it's like attorneys are now misleading people, the public, right, to think they have a great lawsuit, but they're not even civil attorneys. How in the frick are you going to say this person has a civil lawsuit just because she or he spoke to you about what happened? Oftentimes, what happened in a case contradicts what's written down, or contradicts any evidence, or contradicts any statements, or contradicts any subpoenas of people witnessing. Am I right, Attorney Davis? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that really, really gets me so angry at these attorneys that don't know shit, and attorneys that don't know crap about CPS should never give advice. That it's okay for you to sign a safety plan. That it's okay for you to do this. It's okay for you to talk to the social workers. Then why in the name of God do you guys call us after the fact? See, to me, it's just disturbing to me. You call other attorneys, but then you guys call us after the attorneys tell you to screw up your case. And then you come crying. I don't get that. Go ahead.
I mean, I can't comment on what other attorneys say.
They're
You know,
idiots.
every attorney is different. So, if you ask me a question, it's based upon my experience of over 35 years doing CPS cases. Sometimes you talk to an attorney, he might be or she might be a 20-year attorney, but has only been doing CPS cases 5 or 6 years.
Mm,
Are we going to say different things about CPS cases?
mm,
Yeah, we're going to say a lot different things about a CPS case.
mm-hmm,
So the question becomes, do you want to believe a 6-year attorney that's been doing a 20-year attorney that's been doing CPS cases for 6 years, or do you want to believe somebody that's been doing CPS cases for 35 years? I don't know. It's up to you. Everybody makes their own decisions, right?
mm-hmm.
So,
Why? Also, that attorney, that specific attorney that I'm talking about, he knows his name. Um, he tells people to. He tells people, he promises people to get their kids back. He's only been doing CPS for 5 years. I'm not going to mention his name. Only I know his name. I haven't even told Attorney Davis about him. But he's only been doing cases for. No, let me finish because I had a heart-to-heart talk with this idiot. He's only been doing 5 years of CPS cases, but he's telling people he can get the kids back. And then, but he doesn't write that down. He doesn't write it down in an agreement saying, I, so and so scumbag, would love to I'm going to promise you to get your kids back. Right. And then he will sign next to that and you will initial next to that. The only way you want to believe that scumbag is if he does that in the agreement. Now, if he refuses to do that, then you don't need to hire this individual.
well,
I,
he can't put it in an agreement
okay,
because
well, he needs to put it in writing.
it's illegal.
I know it's illegal, but he doesn't tell people that. You have to understand when people are dealing with CPS, they're not in the right mind. Families are not in the right mind because they're so distraught. They don't sleep, they don't drink, they don't eat. They want their kids back. So they would believe anything that is told to them. That I need to make a point on this, Davis. I haven't told you who that person is, but I need you to understand this. This is what's being told to these parents to mislead them. Why in the name of God are you going to believe that? Right? I mean, it's illegal. You can't, no attorney, I can't even promise I'm going to live today, the end of the day. I don't know. You
Well,
can't
here,
determine.
here's the rule.
I can't.
Here's the rule. No attorney can make a guarantee about a
Right,
case.
right, right.
And if they do, it's illegal. They could lose their license. They could be
Mm-hmm,
criminally prosecuted.
mm-hmm,
So if someone tells you, "I guarantee you, I'm going to get the kid back," you probably should run the other way
mm-hmm.
because they just committed an illegal act. But
Absolutely.
but if he's making that guarantee, he should put it in writing
Mm-hmm,
and stand by it. But I can guarantee you this: he will never put it in writing
mm-hmm.
because he might
Now,
as well just go say, "I killed President Kennedy." He can't put that in writing.
mhm. And there's another thing too. What happens is attorneys that's actually been doing it for 3 years or 4 years, 5 years max that I've known two attorneys so far. They download Attorney Davis's book. I want you guys to understand that very carefully. That idiot I was talking about, he still calls me. I don't know why, but anyways, he downloaded Attorney Davis's book. Okay, in his little, peanut head, he thinks that because Attorney Davis has, he breaks down what should happen in every hearing, that he can do what Davis says to do. There's a strategical way to handle CPS. If you haven't been trained, like Davis, trained by Jerry Spence, how to win trials. Davis is a trial attorney. He's a CPS attorney. He's a family law attorney. He's a criminal attorney. He's a divorce attorney. Davis has books about every freaking thing that he does. Okay. That peanut head thinks that he's going to mimic Attorney Davis. And I laugh. I actually laugh at him. And I think he's slow in the mind. He's slow. He's very slow. Because I told him you can't mimic what is written by Davis because you don't know. Every case is different, right? There's a strategic way you have to do things, but he will never get it. So what he does is he looks at Davis's book, and then, for example, he would say on the phone, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have to file a motion 388 petition because you're in this stage of the case." So the parents automatically think, "Okay, the guy knows what he's talking about," because that's what Davis wrote. That's far from the fucking truth. I'm sorry I used the F word, forgive me, but it pisses the freak out of me because parents lose their damn mind when they lose their case. Then they call me and they get mad at me for not warning them.
Hey,
I told them
I
I
want
can't
to tell
talk
you something.
about other attorneys. I cannot. If you tell me you hired this attorney, I cannot by law, I cannot just say, watch out from this guy or this woman. I can't do that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Davis. Please help me out on
Right.
this one.
Our practice, we don't say negative things about other people. So, and if you want to find out, you just have to find out for yourself, I guess. But I wanted to tell you something about the book. The book that I have is called The Secret: How to Fight CPS and Win. Well, I don't know if I told you this, but last week I finished the second edition. It's double the size and triple the information.
What?
Yeah. So
Wait. Are you talking about CPS book?
Yeah, that CPS book you have
Right.
is the first edition. I finished, and I'm about to publish it on Amazon and give everybody digital copies. Is now double the size. It's a new similar cover, but double the pages, more than double the pages, and it has triple the information. So as soon as I have time to go over that book with Grace and make all the corrections, it's going to be published.
I'm so proud of you. I really am honored to work for you. I really, really am. I want to say something real quick, Davis. Also, the divorce book, the Divorce in California book, that link is not working for everyone. The only people that are able to open the link, the free link, is if they have opened it from their desktop. We're getting a lot of cases right now that's family law transitioning to CPS. It's so confusing because I don't know which way to go. But I
Well,
have to talk.
I'll find who has that information, that link for you.
Mhm.
I mean, we still have the book, so it could be reloaded.
Yeah. And I also want to make another statement real quick. John, thank you so much for that beautiful comment. Unless you meant Davis is the cutie one, not me, but
Yeah,
thank you so
he's
much for
talking
that.
about me. He's talking about me.
Then you should thank him. Another thing I want to add. When you talk to Davis, and when you guys see Davis calm, and you talk to an idiot that's aggressive on the phone, an attorney that's only been doing CPS maybe 5 years, but the way his freaking record shows is like, it's so low, it's disgusting. Might as well just deal with a court-appointed attorney. But anyways,
You're gonna off the air. You're gonna have to tell me who this is.
nope, I'm not.
Okay.
Because you might meet him in court one day, and I don't want to. I don't want that. I don't want a conflict. He's an idiot. He's an idiot. He's an idiot. Every time I call him an idiot, he laughs. He's okay with it. It's like in his mind, he thinks he's making money, so why not? Why not? What the fridge? Why not? So that's why I said something is wrong with him. He acts aggressive on the phone, that he's going to do the right thing. And you guys think the more aggressive the person is, you're going to get your way in court. Not true. Not true. That doesn't work that way. Because if you are aggressive, you're going to be easily distracted. Let me tell you this. This is true. I've been with Davis in court. I fell asleep a couple of times because it was so And it's true. I fell asleep. The judge had to wake me up. Why? Because Davis is so soft spoken, but he's also a target. He sticks to the target. He speaks calmly. He doesn't shout. He doesn't bark like a dog, but he gets his point across to the judge. Barking like an idiot doesn't get you anywhere. Okay? There's a difference between passion and aggression. There's different. You can tell in the voice, you can tell in your attitude. However, also, when an attorney tells you that he or she are going to be there in court, but yet the son of a dog doesn't show up in court, and or he or she shows up on a video Zoom for the court proceedings, especially a trial, judges don't like that. Unless there's an emergency as to why that attorney cannot make it. But for every case, every single case, to the point where the judge is like, yeah, he's not here again today. He's not here. You don't make your point across when you're on a freaking Zoom driving to another location. Correct me if I'm wrong, Davis, because that really gets to me. But then that idiot would say, if you hire Davis, he's not going to show up in court. Well, mother F, guess what? I drive him to court. I know he shows up in court. I actually know every time he's in court, he's texting me, I'm in court with so-and-so. I know these people. That's why he's informing me what happened in court. Davis, every chance he's in court, he lets me know. So for any of you guys that hear this bull crap, is a straight out lie. And the only reason another attorney would say scum shit like this about Attorney Davis is if they're threatened by him. Because he's intelligent. Attorney Davis does not say that about himself. I'm saying that. Because I remember the last court hearing I was with him in India. Was it India? 7 kids were returned to the mother that day. I don't remember. Was it India, Davis? Pomona, sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I keep saying India. 7 kids were returned to the mother that day. The mother couldn't believe it because she hired other attorneys, didn't do anything for her. So before, when the social worker was sitting outside, on the bench waiting for the room to be open after lunch, I looked at her and I laughed. And I remember David was like, oh, shaking his head like, oh, there she goes again. But anyways, I told her, I said, you're going to see victory today. You'll see. Right today, we're going to see victory. And I remember the mother looked at me and she's like, that's the social worker. I said, I know. It was a CPS attorney. I'm sorry. CPS attorney. And then the CPS attorney laughed at me. I would never forget that day. She laughed at me and went like this, right? That same day after court, I was sitting outside because I didn't want to be in front of her. I wanted to just like give her a timeout in the corner or something, right? I sat outside and I waited for Davis to be done. As soon as the mother walked out, she said, we won. And she was in tears. 7 kids. So you guys need to understand something. Either you're going to have to reap what you sow. That's all I have to say. If you guys think you hired the right attorney and that attorney screws up and then come to us for saving the case, don't expect pro bono. Okay? You guys already get pro bono with the court-appointed attorneys. By the way, they're not pro bono. They actually get paid by the state. Our tax dollars pays these fools. Okay? So if he gets or she gets paid by the state, doesn't matter if they win your case or not. They're going to get paid. But don't screw up your own case and then come to us and say, oh, I'm looking for pro bono. With all due respect, I understand that. But there's other parents that I talk with that think they don't need to hire an attorney because they feel like they're going to win the case with the pro bono. That doesn't work either. And you guys need to understand something. I'm a little bold than Davis when it comes to these matters because I deal with you guys every single day. And to me, it's crazy You guys want Davis to handle all 3 cases because you think Davis is the trillionaire that can just do that. Well, the ones that actually make the big bucks are the court-appointed attorneys. And those ones get paid by the state. We don't. Davis doesn't. And the way I see Davis working on cases is not the same as other attorneys. So you either hire the goat or you deal with the peacock. Go ahead, Attorney Davis.
No, I was just going to tell you, we've run way past the time, and I have to move on to my next appointment.
I know who's texted that. Will I be in court with you in October? I know who that is, but I'm not going to say because he's our client. I don't know. It's up to Davis.
The name is right there. What do you mean? You
Oh, shit. I didn't see that.
He put his name right there. Anyway, listen, Miss G, if you ever want to do this again, let me know. And, you know, we can do the show again. You know what kind of shows I like to do? When people call in or come on and ask questions about their case. Maybe you can talk to Grace about doing a show like that with me.
Yeah,
okay.
I think they would need to do that, yeah. But I honestly think that you should do a federal case show.
Okay, we'll set it up with Grace, the producer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Ms. G, thank you very much on this Sunday. Everyone else have a good rest of Sunday and a good and successful upcoming week. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
A vivid picture is encrypted in your mind as the critics get in line like they're witnessing a crime. But then you notice there's a shiver in your spine from the feelings of discontentment and bitterness combined. Heartbroken when you listen to the judges, another kid's innocence corrupted. And if you go against then it's destructive. Consider this predicament the toughest, but we believe in a system fit for justice. Child Protective Services only pretends to save it. The one solution for this is worthy of instant praises. 30 years of experience with relentless cases. Allow me to introduce them. This is Vincent Davis defending you when they don't think a mother fits the role. Is it juvenile dependency or government control? Observe the pain in their eyes. It's time for us to realize we are the last